Okay, we are live, but we shall, we will. Let it breathe just for a few moments here, gang, while we get the whole family under the MHH tent here. And we're going to get things cooking. And tonight could be a very momentous night for Broncos country. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, tonight, it could be, of course, a very momentous night for Broncos country because we could be here in a little over an hour about to witness the first Broncos since Randy Gradishar in 1978 bring home the Defensive Player of the Year award. The NFL Honors Ceremony is at the top of this hour that we now find ourselves in, if you're with us live. How are you feeling right now, Zack, about the have the odds in your head, the probabilities of Surtain bringing home this thing, have they changed at all? Because they like giving it to the people who sack quarterbacks.
Yeah, it could be a case where like TJ Watt steals it because he's TJ Watt, or Trey Hendrickson was in it to win it. But I don't know how the voters look at the whole body of work and don't come away with thinking that PS2 was the best defensive player in the NFL, because he was. And us on this podcast, those in Broncos country, we've known it. And I think it'll become official tonight, Chad. Another feather in PS2's ever-growing cap.
I liked what Champ Bailey said about it. I think Eric had the article for us, and he said, well, first off, he better win. Yep. And then he went on to say, Champ Bailey on Surtain, quote, he's been great. I mean, he's only gotten better every year. He's exactly what you expect from somebody you draft. I think he meant to say like first round. You come in, you learn, you just ball out. And the guys, he's the cream of the crop. He's not doing anything I didn't expect from him. So I expect him to be recognized accordingly. So Champ's saying, look, I expect it to happen. I expect the NFL to award a Bronco the Defensive Player of the Year award for the first time since before even your boy here was born.
Yeah, I agree with Eric. There's no way that he shouldn't win. He better win. And he's done everything else so far, Chad. You know, he's got Pro Bowls, all pros. This is the one thing he hasn't done. So on a personal level, an accolade level, I will be happy to see PS2 celebrate tonight and represent the Broncos as an up-and-coming force in the AFC.
There is more to discuss on the Pat Surtain front. Some interesting stuff we're going to get to. Tonight, we're also going to talk a little bit about some of the rumors that have come out this week with NFL coaches and GMs and people kind of in New Orleans for the Super Bowl, things being said, buzz being passed around, Sean Payton himself adding to kind of not so much the rumor mill, but now it's more of the speculation mill. We'll get to all that here in a minute. But first, we got to say what is up to our great friend, the Papa Bear, David McElrath, in the house, getting us started with a generous super chat. Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
He says, good evening, Broncos country. I'm looking forward to watching the NFL Honors tonight. It's on Fox and I should say NFL Network. My Broncos wish list, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, inside linebacker, 1 defensive lineman, free agent linebacker, plus. Zack, that's a pretty solid wish list. I have a hard time picking any nits there. Question is the mix, the match, where's it coming from? This in free agency, that in the draft. Thomas Hall's had a really interesting, holy smokes, a really interesting series. Go read them at MHH, breaking down the probability sake. Where's the best place to find these positions, draft or free agency? Read it when you get a chance. But David, love you, bro.
Yeah, your reaction was my reaction. I see what we have coming up from the Duchess here. But David, I could definitely see the Broncos double dipping. Though at certain positions, I don't want them to waste their time, their money, their energy, their resources in free agency. Like, I don't want a free agent running back. I don't want an Aaron Jones and Najee Harris build through the draft there. They want to pick up an inside linebacker, for example, like a Zach Ball, and they want to pick up a safety like a Javon Holland. I am all for that as well. So it depends how they want to go, but I wouldn't be surprised, David, if they kind of use, as what George Payton said, an aggressive but measured approach to the offseason. Wow, Michaela.
Tippity of the top tippitiest rope.
Wow.
On Super Chat, this is as big as it can get, and it's not the first time that she's been this generous, and not even the first time in very recent history she's been this generous. And all I can tell you, Michaela, is this without airing too much dirty laundry, we need it this year. This level of support. I mean, we don't expect it, but when it comes in, we go, Michaela, thank you so much. It's been kind of a weird offseason for MHH because such a large swath of Broncos country 2 days after the Bills loss just kind of said adios. I guess see you at the draft, see you in August. I don't know, but that's not you guys. You guys are the hardest of the hardcore. You're here with us riding night in, night out. But love you. Thank you, Michaela, is the bottom line. I'm going to zip it and read your super chat. She says, super chat to get good vibes. Love it. For PS2, winning defensive player of the year. Let's go, Broncos. Love you guys. Love you. You guys are really family to me, and the same. I mean, you and I, we keep in touch. We message each other, and you really are family. So love you, Michaela. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't know how to follow that from what Chad said. I mean, Michaela, you've been so generous to us over the years. And like Chad said, this isn't the first super you've dropped. And I just want you to know it helps us out tremendously, the brand, personally, professionally. And there's not many people I would say this about, but this is true about you, Michaela. The MHH podcast and the whole network would not be the same without your support and seeing your name chiming in each and every single day. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much.
Amen. Hope your mom's doing okay, and hope the family's doing well. And yeah, let's get those good vibes rolling in for PS2. I mean, he's dressed for success. He rolled in to the NFL honor ceremony, totally to the nines, spiffy duds, as we'd say out here in the West, looking real sharp. So I think the stars are aligning. I feel good about it. I did read one thing today that made me doubt it for half a second. Not doubt it in the terms of like, oh, it ain't happening, but like, oh, well, that's some food for thought. But I don't think there's a singular performance in the NFL this past season, Zach, more dominant, more individual than Pat Surtain. Like, if he doesn't get it, and another thing that makes me feel good about Pat Surtain getting it tonight, Zach, is the worm has kind of turned relative to how the NFL views and sees the Broncos. If this would have been him toiling in relative obscurity on another 5-win team, he doesn't get it. Even as great as he was, it would have gone to it would go to TJ Watt. But because he was so good individually, and because this and then that corresponded, Zach, to some team success, and the Broncos made the playoffs, won 10 games, I think this is the year.
The Broncos had one of the best defenses in the NFL, and Patrick Surtain is the best player on that defense. So, yeah, the recognition and becoming more of a household name, every NFL fan, casual or otherwise, Chad, Broncos or otherwise, should know who PS2 is. But now they know that he represents the Broncos, and the Broncos just won 10 games. They have an exciting rookie quarterback. They have a pretty dominant defense. This will be a great look for all of Broncos country when, not if, PS2 takes home that hardware tonight.
Indeed. Love you, Michaela. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Michaela.
Love you so much. There was some unfortunate news, as the Ronk brings up. NFL's given its thoughts and prayers to the Chicago Bears, who lost principal owner Virginia Hales McCaskey at the age of 102 today. Broncos gave their thoughts and prayers to the Bears. Yeah, prayers up for that family. And she led a good life, though. I tell you that. She had a long, good life. And but prayers up to the Bears family at large.
That's what I was going to say. 102 years old. She was the owner of an NFL team. She had a bunch of kids, bunch of grandchildren, great-grandchildren. My thoughts and prayers are with the family, Chad, but, we can definitely say that she lived a good life.
We have so much more to get to tonight, guys. Like, I want to talk about what Vic Fangio said about PS2, much, much more. But first, guys, look, the big game's coming up, and the best app for your big game party, well, guess what? It's actually on your phone, and it's called Underdog. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes during the big game. This Sunday, which players are going to go off? Which players will be ice cold? Make your entries in just a few taps.
With their pick'em game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats, like passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and so much more. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all football picks or mix and match across your other favorite sports. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you either can keep riding with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you please.
I can't tell you how much fun I have had this past football season playing Underdog, and you should and can too. Download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Zach, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Taylor. PS2 better win DPoY or it's rigged. You guys rock. Thanks, brother. Appreciate the super chat. Means a lot to us, big dog. Mount Rushmore. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
George Payton, justifiably, through the fullness of time, let's just say, gets credit for the Pat Surtain pick in 2021, right? But who do you think? Here's the question. If Vic Fangio is not the head coach, if it's not a defensive-minded head coach in Denver, do the Broncos instead, facing a pretty serious quarterback need situation, do they instead partake in that quarterback class?
I don't know, because at that point, George Payton consolidated all the power. He wasn't splitting it like he is now with Sean Payton. So what George Payton wanted, the Broncos did. And at that point, the Broncos' biggest need still, up until last year, was quarterback. And who was the debate about, Chad? It was either Fields or PS2 at number 9. So I think regardless of Fangio's presence, they would have stuck with their board and taken PS2 over the quarterback.
So according to Vic, who of course held court earlier this week, Eric Flynn, bro, thank you, pal, for the stars. Great to see you on Facebook. He held court for, his team he's in the Super Bowl. I'm really happy for Vic for that, by the way. He's got a chance to get a ring. But of course, media day, he's getting asked by a lot of the old Bronco faces he recognizes about some of the Bronco topics. And on the subject of PS2, he said when it came to the pre-draft process for the Broncos, scouting that class, holding the ninth pick. I've still got this chest cold. Sorry, guys. He said this, quote, "I was PS2's biggest sponsor in Denver. You just can tell. Sometimes you can just tell. He had all the measurables, all the stuff that people want, but then he had that makeup that would allow his measurables to flourish," close quote. So, Zach, Vic Fangio taking credit in many ways for the Broncos selecting what is probably going to be tonight, football gods willing, the defensive player of the year, and then we'll grab D-Dub. Holy cow.
Everyone talks about Vic like he's this very humble, low-key, old man, grandpa, friendly, amicable. He's got an ego too. Remember what he said after the Broncos fired him, or right before? "I'll have a job in 5 minutes if they get rid of me." So it's not surprising that he's trying to, in retrospect, take credit for the PS2 selection. It's water under the bridge now, Chad. He's no longer with the organization, and the Broncos are enjoying the fruits of that pick, no matter who made it.
He also admitted, I don't want to keep Dale waiting. I'll talk. There's one other Fangio angle we got out of his Super Bowl availability, Bronco relevant. But first, D-Dub with an extremely top ropes, generous super chat. Love you, Dale.
Thank you, Dale.
He says, following the Papa Bear, David McElrath, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, inside linebacker, safety, edge, defensive tackle. I agree with Zach. Build through the draft. I'd love to trade down a few picks in round 1 to get another day 2 pick. Meat of the draft. And we're going to be a problem. LOL. I love that. That's something Sean Payton said in his very illuminating and edifying, I'll say, sit down with Kay Adams on the Up and Adams show. A lot of which I want to talk about tonight, Zach. But first things first, he's agreeing with you here on building through the draft.
Yeah, that's the way they've done it. We talked about PS2, Bo Nix. A lot of their foundational pieces have come, Nick Benito, through the draft. You can't build exclusively, Dale. I mean, that's where you want to go primarily, but you have to use free agency to kind of do the auxiliary pieces, the cherry atop the sundae. So you could take care of some issues and you're not scrambling to take a player you need. You can draft BPA. So I wouldn't mind. So what David said here, I wouldn't mind if they spend some money. They'll have more to spend and more wiggle room. I just don't want them to monopolize certain positions with veterans or not stick to their purpose, which is to build through the draft, because in certain areas, Chad, running back, tight end, even receiver, this draft class is so deep, they can't lose sight of that.
It's true. And even Sean Payton, when Kay Adams just wanted to talk about wide receiver. You have the musts, the needs, and the wants is how he categorized it. And she was like, receiver. And, he gave her, he placated her to an extent, but he talked about the middle of the defense, linebacker and safety, meaning Broncos see what we see in some senses. They just see it probably at a much deeper, obviously, and more knowledgeable angle. Sam Bam, great to see you tonight, big dog. Thank you. He says, evening, guys. I sure hope PS2 wins Defensive Player of the Year, and I hope he someday gets to hold the Lombardi Trophy in a Bronco uniform. Go Broncos, and this week, go Eagles. Sunday, 11 weeks till the draft. Yeah, that's one of the big laments. One of the big laments for our boy Champ Bailey is he at least got to compete in a Super Bowl with the Broncos. It was his second to last year, or was it his last full season? I'm trying to remember, but he was in that he was on that ill-fated Super Bowl 48 team, Zach, that just got literally punched in the mouth by the Seattle Seahawks. That was a nightmare. But I hope that PS2's fate is quite different. And Zach, it's really cool to see the swagger. I mean, Sean Payton has never lacked for confidence, right? But he's straight walking around New Orleans, return of the king style, right? Aragorn is back in Minas Tirith, and he's got some swagger about the direction of his new team. And I think it really, tonight, hey, it's all about celebrating PS2, and that's definitely one of the feathers in his cap. But that swagger, Zach, is we got our guy. We got our quarterback. We're going to be a problem.
I just find it funny that Sean Payton never talks to anyone, and then anytime Kay Adams comes around, he's a open book. Can't say I blame him too much, though, Chad. The thing with PS2, there's so many great players in NFL history, even current players that never even sniffed the playoffs. I mean, look at Justin Simmons, for example. Not an elite player, but in Broncos canon, never got close to even a winning record. I don't want that for PS2, but fortunately, unlike Simmons, he already made the playoffs. The Broncos are ascending. He's the best player on an up-and-coming team. So, Sam, I don't think we'll have to worry about this. I think one day, this is not too much of a hot take, you will see PS2 hoist the Lombardi.
From your lips to the football god's ears, my friend. From your lips to their ears. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Dale. Michaela, the Papa Bear Taylor, checking in. Love you guys. Thank you. The Ronk, who's saying here, Sean Payton said that he paid dinner for the Kansas City Chiefs receivers after the interview with Kay Adams. Hey, I don't know. I didn't hear that part, but William James Baker, what's up, brother? Guys, how are we? We are great. Guys, I know there's talk about Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins also. Allen is a target, but are there any other trades you'd consider at wide receiver? Zach?
Garrett Wilson, that's my number one guy. That's the only receiver I would trade for, though. I mean, based on what Sean Payton said, Chad, about what the Broncos need, and you mentioned it earlier, the must-haves and the needs and the wants, the bucket he broke it down to for Kay Adams, receiver is not in that must-have bucket. So people like me that are holding our breath for the Broncos trading for Garrett Wilson, I don't know that we should do it much longer. You're muted.
Exactly, dude. D-Dub jumping in again. Holy smokes.
Thank you so much, Dale. Thank you.
There's something in the air this evening. I wonder what it could be. 7 o'clock Mountain Time. NFL Honors. We start getting some answers. I expect to see Bo there. I haven't been on social media too much today. I've been working hard, but I'm assuming he's there since he's a finalist, Zach. We know it's probably not. O'Roy's not going to Bo, but he'll be there, decked out. PS2's there. It's a great night. It's going to be a great night. D-Dub with a second very generous super chat. Love you, bro. He says, sure, modest free agency. I like the safety from Miami, Javon Holland, maybe Zach Bond if we get a good deal. Those two are, in my opinion, the free agency, like you got everything you wanted, like if in the making a splash sense. Like, I don't know that you need to go spend on Javon Holland. But I wouldn't have, Zach, any compunction. Nothing would be holding me back to go hand a bag to Zach Bond. That dude is the truth. And he also spoke about Sean Payton this week at Media Day, was brought up and just said, didn't say anything inappropriate, but just that's who drafted me. And that is who drafted him in New Orleans, Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis. And it makes a lot of sense for Zach Bond hitting free agency to rejoin the inside linebacker desperate Denver Broncos. So I'm sharing a brain with you here, D-Dub.
Yeah, Bond's story is pretty incredible. He reminds a lot of Sternod, except he's actually talented, Chad. I don't know he's going to even reach the open market. He might stay with Philly. He might be priced out of the Broncos range, but absolutely, that would be probably overall my number one free agent I would want the Broncos to explore. It's been such an area of need for so long, and he would just fill that completely, instantly from day one. Hufanga at safety, too, from the 49ers. I know he has some injury history. I wrote about him. They get him on a modest contract, as you said there, Dale, perfect word. That's another player I would not mind having opposite Brandon Jones.
You want to hear something kind of blow your mind? Javon Holland, one pick after Javonte Williams in the 2021 NFL draft. So it's just kind of weird how the NFL works. But, the Broncos, here's the thing. Modest free agency to a point. Yes. They do have some big decisions to make. Nick and Scott have talked about it quite a lot this week on the morning show in regards to the conversation kind of coming up around Myles Garrett trying to force his way out of Cleveland. Could the Broncos be a player in that? Well, what about the future of Nick Bonito? Broncos have a big decision coming on Nick Bonito, and they'll probably, I'm guessing, Zach, kick that can down the road a little bit, and let's just ensure his All-Pro / Pro Bowl year was not a aberration, that's just the new – he turned a corner. That's the status quo now for Nick Bonito. But what I'm getting at, there's a long-winded way of saying when we talk about free agency and it's 35.7 some odd million in effective cap space, you also have to budget for what are you going to do with Zach Allen and a few other little things, including John Franklin Myers, including Malcolm Roach. I mean, everybody is hitting a contract year this year with the exception of DJ Jones, who is actually a free agent.
And they also have to keep in, we wrote about it for the website, but Courtland Sutton, there might be another contract impasse there.
Yes.
He might not be happy playing on his current salary. They might have to extend Courtland. So you're right, Chad. They have to budget out some wiggle room for in-house transactions.
Yeah. Excellent point. And I had kind of, I don't want to say I hadn't forgotten about Courtland Sutton, but after they kind of went and tweaked a few things for him to make those bonuses that he got at the end of the year and all that stuff for hitting 1,000 yards. I kind of, in my mind's eye, he's squared away. He's taken care of. Well, no, he's hitting a contract year. And after having 1,000-yard season with a rookie quarterback, he's going to want to be recognized. And I got to tip my cap to him. I think sometimes, Zach, it's not that you and I have ever been anti-Courtland Sutton. I think we've given him the flowers he's deserved. But perhaps at times we underrate him just a little bit because his two biggest years in the NFL, you could maybe throw in last season, his last year with Russ getting the double-digit touchdowns, but I'm not going to count that because he didn't get over 1,000. The volume wasn't there. 2019, he makes the Pro Bowl as a year 2 player, 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, whatever, catching passes from 3 different starting quarterbacks, one of which more than a quarter of the season was a rookie, Drew Lock. Then his next 1,000-yard season, this past year, he does it with a rookie. He's raising the boats around him, and he's a receiver. That's not easy to do. Now, granted, Zach, Bo Nix, you could really make an argument who's actually raising who there. Bo Nix, especially from basically middle of October on, he was as good as almost any NFL starter that there is or was, Zach. But Cortland Sutton, he's a situation we're going to have to monitor because he's obviously very important to Bo too.
No, he's a good football player. He leaves it all on the field. He loves Denver. He's a team first guy for the most part. Great in the red zone, great in traffic, Chad. Great possession receiver. Although the only issue with him is the dropsies, is the fumbles, the drop passes. We saw it in the playoff game against Buffalo. And that's what makes him, to me, I don't think I overrated him or underrated him. I think I rated him correctly. He's always been just a really high-end number 2 or low-end number 1. That's why he needs some help, which the Broncos should oblige him with this offseason.
We have here V. Corenstra jumping in with a super chat. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Loveland, the Michigan tight end, or Warren, the Penn State tight end, in the first, and safety Watts in the second. Hashtag PS2 DPoY. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. So we're talking here about Xavier Watts, of course, of Notre Dame. And here's the cool thing. I was just writing about this about a half an hour before we went live. If the board falls in a way where a Loveland or a Warren are there at 20, take them all day long. But don't feel like you have to move around to get them, because this is such a deep tight end and running back class and wide receiver class. It's maybe not as deep at safety. So I could see, Zach, hey, you take, if the dream tight end falls to you at 20 in the first round, you don't look that gift horse in the mouth. You take him, and then you could maybe take a safety in the second round. Although I'm not sure, I'm not saying that he isn't. I'm being very literal in what I'm about to say. I'm not sure that Watts is a second round pick.
Loveland is becoming the popular candidate to be pegged to the Broncos at 20 overall. ESPN, NFL Media, and CBS Sports all projected the Broncos drafting him there, and that's with Tyler Warren coming off the board multiple spots earlier. So yeah, this is, you're speaking my language here. Help out Bo. Don't reach, but those are two terrific football players to choose from. Help out Bo, and then maybe come back to the defense in round 2. That's how you got to do it, I think.
So on the consensus NFL mock draft database 2025 consensus big board, Watts checks in at 59 with a peak of 49. So he's in that early day 2 conversation. So when I say I'm not sure he's a second round pick, I'm just mean I haven't done enough study on him to say for sure. But that's kind of, Zach, where his projections are, at least at this point. So for what it's worth, and thank you, Corenstra. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for that super. Holy smokes.
Ew, man. Thank you.
Holy smokes. D-Dub. Don't make me laugh, because then the cough comes. I've got this chest cold I'm trying to shake free of. He says, Michaela's passing the bottle around. Who knew? Love her support. Man, the offseason is so much easier when you've got a young stud quarterback and all your draft picks. No. Then you top it off with an ownership worth more than the next 4 combined. Easy. Hard not to be encouraged. Exactly. And that's the thing, is I think it does explain in a large part, Zach, why even core members of our community, like we heard from one of our Mount Rushmore superstars and close buddies last week, after not hearing from him for a few weeks, hey, sorry guys, I had to kind of decompress from football for a minute, but I'm back. And I think it's overall, for what it indicates for the Broncos anyway, it's a good thing in terms of fans feel comforted. They feel confident. They feel, as we're inching, I think, farther into the offseason, closer to free agency, closer to the draft, excited about the direction this team is going. And D-Dub, thank you for your third very generous super chat. You laid it out. You laid it out. An offseason much easier when you got a young stud quarterback, all your picks, and then an ownership group that has all the cheddar, Zach.
And you're not paying $50+ million in dead money to a player who doesn't even play for you anymore. So yeah, I mean, the arrow is skyrocketing upward, Dale, and you make excellent points there. But I want to say first and foremost, and most importantly, thank you so much. Your support literally blows us away, makes us speechless. We have nothing more that we could add that would come across. I don't want to come across disingenuous, but we appreciate it so much. Thank you, man. Thank you.
We're very fortunate, very lucky to have the community that we do here at MHH. And Dale, you're right there at the top, and you know this, big dog. Love you so much. Thank you, bro. So generous. You're the man. We also have David Youngkin showing some generosity and trying to get something off his chest. Thank you, David. Great to see you. And you're also very consistent, dude. It might not necessarily be a super chat every single stream, but you're in every single stream, and that's what matters the most. And you're contributing to the conversation, and we appreciate you, big dog. He says, I'm fine not getting a receiver in free agency. Build the defense in free agency, build the offense in the draft. Well, I think it's more just, try to fill the most burning, pressing, immediate, gotta have needs. So let's break it down. Sean Payton, Zach called them the musts, the needs, the musts, the needs, the wants. Pardon me. All right. What are the musts? Say it. What are the musts that you got to get this offseason, Zach?
Running back and tight end, the Joker.
Like if you're playing a game tomorrow, roster as it is, meaning 19 guys hitting free agency, right? And you have to play a game tomorrow. You're playing the Chiefs. What do you got to get today to make it happen?
First and foremost, a running back, but you need a tight end, you need a receiver. He mentioned down the middle, so inside linebacker, safety, interior defensive line. But he gushed, Chad, over what Jeremy Shockey, Reggie Bush brought to the table in New Orleans. He wants an elite catcher of the football, either as a tight end or a running back, the Joker.
Yeah. The mythical Joker. And I think it's important for people to understand, and even I was not sure of this until very recently. He had to basically beat us over the head with it. The Joker to him is not a wide receiver. It's not even a gadgety guy like Marvin Mims. It's a tight end or a running back. That's a Joker with the pass catching acumen, elite level pass catching. And Shockey, people forget that that's where he went after the Giants, and he had a lot of success. Wasn't he on that 2009 Saints team or maybe that was a little too far? Hold on. I gotta remind myself of old Shockey. I loved Jeremy Shockey. I mean, he was obviously never a Bronco, but I just dug his game. Yeah, he was there. He helped win that Super Bowl, and he was, of course, also there. Sean Payton, 2002, he was there when the Giants picked Shockey out of Miami in the first round. So anyway, yeah. And then Reggie Bush, phenomenal runner, even as good of a pass catcher.
And Sean Payton said, I think we're stronger at receiver than some people think we are. And he also talked up Marvin Mims, said he's an elite player with the ball in his hands. He grew exponentially in 2024. So again, either it's a smokescreen shot and he's trying to throw us off the scent here, or he's being genuine and kind of pushing wide receiver down the priority totem pole. And at the top of that is running back and tight end, either or both.
Exactly. And that brings me to this topic from Michael, the Ronk, saying, well, hey, we keep talking about a lot of MHH writers are writing about Jets wide receivers the Broncos could target because, yeah, Garrett Wilson, we've talked a lot about him on this show. Zach's a big fan of the possibility of trying to go get Garrett. There's also Alan Lazard, who we know Sean Payton really liked last year anyway. And then there's also Davante Adams, which Eric did write about today in an article. Zach, do you want to see Davante Adams? Is that a set of tires, let's say, that you'd kick if you're the Broncos?
No, I really wouldn't. There's some character concerns with Davante, and he's getting up there too. I don't know. The juju maybe is throwing me off. I mean, he was with the Raiders, then the failed experiment with the Jets. If there's one receiver in New York, and everyone's entitled to their own belief here, I want Garrett Wilson over Davante.
This is interesting. I'm not sure what to make of this. I don't know. Peyton Manning's brother Eli up for the Hall of Fame, because tonight that's another thing that gets announced at the NFL Honors is the 2025 Hall of Fame class. This is his first ballot for Eli. His brother, of course, Peyton, already in the Hall, first ballot. Do you think Eli gets in, Zach, first ballot? 2-time Super Bowl champion, owns every passing record in the vaunted. I mean, when you think about the teams that get the additional accolades and all the benefits of the doubt and the old school original NFL teams, the New York Football Giants are definitely one of those teams. So if it was anybody besides Eli that had the same stats and achieved the same things for those Giants, they would not even be, that wouldn't even be considered a possible doubt that he'd be getting in on the first ballot. But because it's kind of the Eli, ho-hum, Eeyore kind of unsexy Eli thing, now we got to wonder. I think he gets in, but I'm not sure. Tonight, I'm saying I think he gets in, but I'm not sure unless you've heard something I don't know.
He's also a Manning, so that should help him. But we have to look at who his 2 Super Bowl victories were against. He knocked off
Exactly.
the undefeated Patriots, Chad, one of the biggest upsets, maybe the biggest upset in NFL history. And then he did it again a few years later in Brady's prime. So, yeah, I'm a big Eli fan personally. I think he is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I'm a fan. He pulled a little bit of an Elway pre-draft power play move. I think he deserves to be in the Hall. And God bless him for keeping 2 possible rings, additional rings, off of Tom Brady's. I mean, if not for Eli, and there were Eli histrionics, Zach, in both those games. Without Eli, those 2 Super Bowls, right? We have the David Tyree. What was the second one? The second game had a crazy catch too. In the
Manningham.
Yes, thank you.
Insane.
I mean, dude, Eli is so deserving. These are iconic plays in NFL history. Brady's got 7. If not for Eli, Tom Brady. He's 9 fingers. You can call him 9 fingers because can you imagine? Could you imagine? So anyway, Cody Dubb, why not have 2 jokers? Thank you for the super, big dog. Juwan Johnson and a running back in the draft. Juwan Johnson, Zach, I don't know how much you know about him as a prospect.
I know he's pretty mid. I mean, just because he's from New Orleans doesn't mean the Broncos have to pursue him. I understand that they should fill some areas of need, but just draft Tyler Warren. Just draft Loveland. Just draft Arroyo even. Someone that's going to bring you upside and a ceiling. Juwan Johnson doesn't do that to me. Plus, there's some injury concern with him, Chad.
So last year, he appeared in he started 5 of 17 games in New Orleans, was targeted 66 times, caught 50 balls for 550 yards basically, and 3 touchdowns. I agree that he's basically mid, but he would be a modest upgrade over what the Broncos currently have. But I'm saying very modest upgrade. So I think the draft's a better option. Look, a joker, Juwan is not. That we can say for sure. Is he an upgrade at tight end? Negligible. He's definitely not a joker. Your joker is going to be found in the draft. I guess there's some possibilities, Zach, in the free agent market, like at running back. The kid coming from the expat, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is probably the only option at running back this year that could plausibly fill that role, but I don't have the list fully put up in front of me right now.
Well, there's Rico Dowdle. I'm talking just pass catching running backs. Kenneth Gainwell is going to be a free agent. But again, I mentioned this on the solo show last Thursday, Chad. If these players they're bringing in aren't wholesale upgrades over the players that they're replacing, then what's the point? If you can get an elite running back or an elite tight end in the draft, I wouldn't even piddle around on the open market.
Ralph Bracegirdle in the house, throwing down some stars. Thank you, brother. Says the Notre Dame running back impressed me, but I'm not sure we need Estime's backup the last year he was there. I mean, we can pull him up, Zach. What do you know about this kid? What's his name? Is it? It's one of those easy names, dude. Why am I? Love. Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, not my first choice, and for the same reason you mentioned, Ralph, there. There's just, it's such a top-heavy, and I know it's a consistently deep class, but there's so many tempting players toward the top, even without Genty. Neal, Travion Henderson, your boy, Chad, as well, that you mentioned a lot. Judkins, who I think can fit in Sean Payton's scheme. Dylan Sampson. Those would be my inclinations over the Notre Dame running back.
Phil McLaughlin, what's up, brother? Great to see you. Thank you for the stars. And we're about out of time, guys, because we want everybody to be able to watch NFL Honors here in 10 minutes kicking off. Phil says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Families visiting, just sending some love. Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. You're You're so kind to do that. Thank you, Phil. It's great to see you tonight, big dog. And if you're able to hear this in time, give your family our best, my friend. That's really cool. Always great to have the family together. No doubt about that. Zach, let's grab our final messages, and then there's the last call for any burning topics, and then we'll make sure we're out of here in time for NFL Honors kicking off.
Another tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and don't forget about Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
I want to co-sign this from the Ronk. Kansas running back Devin Neal is a name to watch for the Joker role. Scott and I got a chance to watch him every single day at the Senior Bowl. He ended up checking in terms of the official measurements and weights at the Senior Bowl. Devin Neal checks in at just a quarter inch shy of 6 foot. Or pardon me, I'm getting my math wrong. He's an inch and a quarter shy, 5'10", 3/4. He's basically 5'11", weighs 220, and he's a very smooth athlete. Last year at Kansas, aside from cranking out basically 1,300 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns, averaging 6 yards a carry, he also caught 24 balls for 254 yards, averaging over 10 yards per reception. He's a guy to keep in mind. And he might not exactly be a joker, but I'm telling you guys, don't sleep on Jarquez Hunter. Okay, Auburn. Scott completely swung me on this dude. Just watching him, he stood out significantly from the other running backs at the Senior Bowl, of whom, of course, Devin Neal was one. Brashard Smith is interesting. Trevor Etienne, the brother of the other Etienne's, interesting. There's some options in this draft. That's why, if Ashton Genty's not there, which he won't be there for the Broncos in all probability, Zach, at 20, don't trip. Let not your heart be troubled. There's plenty of running back talent in this class. It's going to be a really fun draft, and we're looking forward to continuing to cover it. Thank you, Ron. Great show tonight, Chad, Zach, on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. And just a reminder, we're going to be, Zach and I, tag team in the NFL Combine at the end of the month. It's going to be a gas. But before we dip on out of here and check out the NFL Honors, we got a Mile High salute and a special shout out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight, helping us keep the lights on, like the Ronk, the Papa Bear, David McElrath, the Duchess from the tippity top rope. Grab your binoculars to see how high she's you're going like this to see. Okay. Thank you. Love you, Michaela. Taylor Christensen, Eric Flynn, D-Dub with 3 massive super chats. Love you, Dale. Sam Bam, V. Carenstra, David Yunkin, Cody Dubb, Ralph Bracegirdle, Phil McLaughlin, and I know I've already mentioned him, but punctuating the show, the Ronk. Love you guys so much. Here we go. Let's keep those, as Michaela said, positive vibes for PS2 tonight. Zach, it kicks off in 6 minutes if you're with us live. NFL Honors, it's on Fox and it's on NFL Network. So here we go. Let's keep our fingers crossed, Zach, that Pat Surtain is the first Bronco since Randy Gradishar in 78 to be named AP Defensive Player of the Year.
Special thank you to Michaela. Special thank you to Dale. Special thank you to all our Super Chat superstars and viewers this evening. Have a great start to your weekend. We'll see you Sunday. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.